I think I'm the only Itoke participant this evening. So it's a special privilege, eh? Yeah. Vinavalev to everybody. Sharon, cool chick, man. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to make it. And I'm glad that she invited me to this event. Sorry I haven't met with my colleagues, our feature participants that have spoken. But I think we'll meet up after this. Anyways, my story is basically started back when I was in high school. I attended Queen Victoria School. And during that period, my father had always told me that I had a piece of land back in the village to go back to. So I guess that was the turning point to everything else, because it just ruined everything. I did not want to go to school. I didn't attend classes. I always wanted to go back to the farm. During the holidays, you wouldn't see me in the village. I'd be either working in the cane fields with my relatives, or I'd be riding horses around the property. So that's how everything just happened. And so Form 6 2 times, failed twice. And it wasn't something that I had wanted, eh? Like my brothers before me, A-grade students. And then when it came to my time to sit exams and try to get a good grade, it didn't happen. Fortunately, you sort of know that something else is working behind the scenes. Eh? You see, my dream was to go and attend Cornivia. So when you're in the ag industry in Fiji, sort of your premium, the training that you want to go through is you go through Cornivia, and then you come to Alpha campus, and then you get a degree, and then that sort of sets everything up for your career path in the ag industry. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Couldn't make it to Cornivia, so I went through Navuso, which is the second option, run by the Methodist Church. I have a lot of respect for this school. It taught me a lot of valuable lessons. And so after Navuso, I was drafted into the farm. And I hustled with the sugarcane industry for 15 years. And a very difficult period in my life, eh? Because here you are, 21 years old, and you haven't got basically nothing in your pocket. You've got this land in front of you, and you got the support from your family, and then okay, what do you do with that, eh? And so I think it was all this trial and error during that period that helped me diversify into other stuff opposed to sugarcane farming. Eh? And if you're in the West, if you're based in Nandi, I know a lot of you will relate to it. Eh? You know, the sugarcane industry is really big here. It's not doing as well as it was 10 years ago, but it's always the dream of the people that come from the sugarcane sector to, if they don't continue farming, it's to look for greener pastures overseas or in the towns. And for me, the incentive was always the land that I had back at home. Eh? My father told me, as soon as you're 21, this land will be yours. And so here I was, 21 years old, with no money in my pocket, and this 54 acres in front of me. And you know, a typical Fijian farm, eh? Party, eh? All full of grass. And no tractor, and no truck, and you're surrounded by the Indo-Fijian community, people who are well advanced with sugarcane farming. And this was the big problem that I faced. I had no one to relate to or to talk to, or someone close to me in the village to show me, okay, this is how it's done. So I hustled with this industry for 15 years and found out that it just didn't make sense. Got an opportunity to go to Alafo after that. I want to thank the government at the time for giving me a scholarship. Never in my wildest dream did I ever think of pursuing a degree. So after 15 years in the farm, I find myself in Alafo campus. And so I go in as a mature student. So you see all this Katsi gang straight from high school, all that. And so here I was sitting at the back seat, just watching everybody, looking at the lecturers, and just trying to figure things out. So my first week in campus, that was like I was said, this is going to be my last week in campus. Big culture shock for me, from the cane fields to university. And so I was ringing my mother and I told her, I don't think this thing's going to work. Because my lectures, like three times in a week, and then we've just got all this free time. I'm a person that's always active, But when you come to uni, you pretty much want to be, you got to be in the labs, you got to be in the library, you got to be training this thing up here, So I couldn't figure it out for at least first, second semester. And then I was spending a lot of times drinking, because that was the only salvation at that point. And then, but one thing I found out is if you become friends with the lecturers, then you're okay. So I came back from, I finished off university with a bag full of C grades. And I call those C grades my golden C's, because I could never get an A grade, let alone a B grade. So C grades, I said, I'm going to call it my golden C's, man. And those golden C's actually was the one that started to burn everything, all this energy inside me. One, you're not making the grades. Everybody's going to go ahead. They're going to go find good jobs when they get back home. They're going to start with probably 30, 40K. And here you are going back to the village, to your farm with all your golden C's. Yeah, so there was this big world right in front of me. So I finished uni, came back to the farm. Fortunately, I'm surrounded by very, very good people, very kind-hearted people. My mother forced me into the floriculture industry. So you'll have all this room full of ladies, and I'll be the only guy there. And it taught me a lot of things. And sometimes, in the beginning, initially my mom, when she was trying to take me to these workshops and all, I was be manduai, because here you see all these ladies working with flowers, and I said, man, I'm not supposed to be here, man. But she always told me, see, this is where the money is, man. This is where the money is. And so from all these, the support that I was getting from my mom, support I was getting from my, anyways, so my mom was a big inspiration, And unfortunately, she passed away when I was in university, and that sort of turned everything upside down. And but things happen for a reason, And if that did not happen, that wouldn't be it wouldn't have been. I would have been in a different position, It wouldn't have given me that inspiration to move forward and stick to what I was doing. You see, when you're dealing with land issues in the village, it's not simple. It's complicated, Because none of this land is owned by an individual. The land is owned by the Matangali, the clan and the sub-clan. So you've got about 100 to 300 people that own this small piece of land. And here you are trying to diversify and try to work something out of the land. So what I did was, okay, let me get a lease on top of this land, so I can chase everybody out and start a business. And that's exactly what I did. I got a 30-year agriculture lease. And very recently, I converted it into a tourism 99-year lease. Because one thing I found out when I took my cane lease to the bank, they told me it was unbankable. I said, what? It's unbankable. But I've been working in this farm for 15 years. This is what I produced. FSC knows my records, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, Mr. Tora. This lease is unbankable. Why? Because it's high risk and blah, blah. I said, man, this is bullshit, man. And so, okay, can you tell me what to do? I mean, how can I work this thing out? I said, okay, you'll have to get a title, sort of like a commercial lease, and then we can think about it. And so, to get to that point, you really don't have anybody to go to ask about, okay, how do you get these things done? So, you meet up with a lot of people, a lot of sharks, A lot of sharks on the way. There you go. See, a lot of people laughing because I think they relate to it, I don't call them con men, I call them con artists. Because they're so smooth when they talk to you, Anyway, it cost me a lot of money to get to the point where where I got my lease. Now I'm sitting on a 99-year tourism lease, which now the bank, like most of the banks are calling me around now, say, hey, Mr. Toro, I know, heard you got a new lease. I said, okay, time to talk money now, man. Yeah. But it's taken a long time, man. So at one point I was wanting to be a successful sugarcane farmer, and then I turned around and I said, no, I must get into some other ag activities. And then I'm at the point now where I'm, okay, these things, it doesn't seem to be working. So I've jumped into agro-tourism now. So my core activities stay on the farm, and I've opened it up to tourists now. So I run a successful horse riding business, very small, but it's gaining a bit of mileage. So I bring people into the farm, I get them on the horse, and then I take them on for a farm tour. And during that farm tour, none of the stories are made up. We basically talk about the history of the farm, how it started off as a sugarcane farm and what we're doing now. We talk about the history of the Sambeto Valley, the history of the Indian community, the economic fathers of our country, and how we've been able to integrate and help each other. And we tell them all these stories, and we tell them about how we ventured into organic certification for our papayas. We tell them about how we ventured into the cut flower business, floriculture, how we into orchids, anthuriums, all this stuff. So things that supplementing the farm income. And it's not really straightforward because, like I said, if you hear about all the activities I do on the farm, it's about 100 plus. We've tobacco farming. We are even into looking at the prospect of planting not only tobacco but cigars, Fijian cigars. Have you ever heard about Fijian cigars, man? Yeah, so that's something that I wanna get into. But it's and the best thing about it is all these ideas and all these dreams are for free, So if you were listening carefully to some of the previous speakers and what they were saying, how they were sharing their experiences, it's pretty much on the same level as what I was going through. You have to be persistent. You have to be disciplined. You have to know your topic, your subject, your subject matter. Being an ag student, you have to be a student of the weather. You have to be an economist at the same time. You have to know how to forecast. You have to know how to project. You have to know how to foresee future trends. So this is some of the skill sets that you have to adapt very quickly. And agricultural farming is not the answer to everything. And as you can see with my experience, I've ventured into agro-tourism now. So right now, my position now is not only a farmpreneur, which is what I like to call myself. I'm an entertainer as we speak, because now I'm entertaining guests, tourists, and people who want to get connected back to the land on my farm. I haven't moved away from my farm. It was the farm that I had started with back in the early 90s, and I'm still there today. And I just want to encourage and probably encourage more people, even the people that are way overseas. There's just a lot of good things that's going to happen to this country. Our government is playing its part in giving us this enabling environment that we all want, and I think it's just about making those decisions, those choices, to come back and invest in the land that we've been given. To our Itoke friends who are here today or who are probably listening, this is one thing that we cannot take out of the equation. When we are born into this world, especially the Itoke, you automatically get into this the VKB, Volakaumbula. And when you are in the Volakaumbula, you basically inherit land. And for a lot of our non-Itoke friends, for you it was really a struggle to access land. But for us, you're born into the land, you inherit it. So it's just a matter of turning that land into your gold mine, and not running away from it. Whether you're in a remote community, whether you're in an island, whether you think you're on some piece of marginal land, on a steep slope, or somewhere where you think there's no prospect for any sort of business. You know, the dreams are for free, guys. You know, I'm sure everybody will can relate to that. And so probably my take-home message is good luck to everybody. And thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you for paying for coming. You know, this is really great. Thank you very much for your time.